Hey, what's going on, kids? And welcome to Kicker Rock's podcast, 2 Drink Minimum. This is episode number 19. And in this episode, we're talking about movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that remind us of those decades in particular. So, films that were made in those decades that jump out and really remind us of those particular moments in time. So sit back, relax, have a drink with us, and enjoy. All right, gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers.
Clank.
And welcome everybody to Kick Rock's 2 Drink Minimum. I'm Bill.
Sergio.
There you go.
Homer. Oh, wait, I did that joke already. I'm JT.
That's okay. All right, well, today it's just the three of us again. Seems to be a pattern here. I think maybe Tony and Joe don't like us anymore. I don't know. We might have annoyed them. But either way, tonight we're talking about That's So, I guess, of a particular decade.
Is that so?
Is that so? We're talking about movies that are so that decade, and we're gonna limit it to 3 decades. We're going 70s, 80s, and 90s today. So movies where you watch them and you go, man, that is so 70s. That's such a 70s movie. And to clarify, not movies that are about certain decades, right? So, as an example, Dazed and Confused, great movie, made in the 90s, about the 70s. Not qualifying in this conversation.
Right.
The movie has to be made in that decade and has to make you feel, and remind you of that particular decade, all right? Just so the audience knows, and we set some ground rules here, but I guess we might as well start in chronological order and go with That's So 70s. So what are we doing for, what movie reminds you and just feels like the 70s when you watch it? Who wants to start off?
I'll go first. I never go first. I'm always sitting around. I'm going with Rocky, the original Rocky. It
Nice.
Feels very 70s to me. Just like the clothes, the hairstyles, like that sleazy guy. Who's that sleazy guy that's like employing him in the beginning?
Yeah.
To like be like a goon or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just the stupid mustache and the way he talks and the stupid car,
Listen,
it's just
Rock.
like and then like the theme song, the getting stronger, it's like it's very 70s. As iconic as that song is, you know what I mean? It's like when you hear the it could almost be timeless, but then it starts with the you know what I mean? It gets into like 70s like I'm trying not to say porn music. I'm really trying not to say it.
But it does have that bass-driven disco, feel undertone to it, which was very popular for like 70s music.
Yeah.
It was made in the heart of the 70s. I mean, it's 76.
Yeah.
So, I mean, disco was very prominent. That style of music was very prominent.
Yeah, at least popping up, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, then all of a sudden you have that entire horn section come in and he's running and he makes up the stairs. I mean, one of the, in my opinion, greatest movies of all time.
It was amazing.
Won Best Picture that year. Okay.
Yeah.
Throwing that out there. But yeah, I mean, Rocky is totally 70s and an awesome movie to this day, still holds up.
Oh, and what's Carl Weathers?
Carl Weathers.
Is Apollo Creed, just like the showmanship, when he...
Right. Yeah. The villain you love to hate. He wasn't even a bad guy in that movie. You loved him.
And also, like, it's like the production values felt 70s, too, in a way that the 80s sequels did not, where it's like... It had, like, that kind of... You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like sometimes like the handheld cameras that walk around in the 70s and take footage of stuff. There's like a certain feel to them, a certain vibe that like I don't know, that just feels 70s to me. Like even in the movie Death Race 2000, like just like the way it's just the like kind of home video feel of like the walking around with the camera,
and raw, and exactly. Just like there's no give. It's gonna like if the camera's moving or if the person's moving, if the camera's capturing that movement.
Yeah,
so it's
it
just
almost felt like
it feels like there's like actual like a person moving, and that's kind of how I felt like that's how they used those shots too, where it's like they wanted to feel like you're part of that, like running with Rocky down the street and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like
so I totally get what you're saying.
During the fight scene too, like at the end, like when everybody's walking in and stuff, and like just like the news reporters and stuff like that, you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. It's like it felt very guerrilla, like 70s handheld cams felt very guerrilla, because they weren't trying to, like these days you'll try like to set the shot on the thirds, you'll try and like frame the shot and make it art while you're moving the camera, and you know what I mean. But back then it was kind of like, I'm not trying to like knock their technical expertise, I just feel like it wasn't like a honed skill yet,
right?
Where it's like it felt just more like live, you know. It felt like you were actually there, as opposed to somebody making a shot.
And I also think that was the beauty about just film in general. It's like the director really depended and trusted their cinematographer, their DP, to just sit behind that camera, because the camera operator is looking through that camera eye and like looking through the lens, and he's operating it, and he's got to make sure that he's capturing what the director wants, because they're not going to be able to look at that footage. I don't even know if in the 70s if they still had dailies the next day, but you have that they have to wait to see how yesterday's footage or 2 days ago's footage went, and then have to decide if they're going to do reshoots because they didn't get what they want. So it's just like, to your point, I think the way you said it was like, the point I was going to make is the fact that like they very much trusted that cinematographer to do a good job at capturing what that director sat down and told him, I want you to get this.
Right.
And it's like, it's very stylized from the perspective, I'm sure that cinematographer was working with the equipment that he had and the skills that he had. But still, I totally hear what you're saying. It had its own feel. Yeah. It had its own, like, you mentioned when he's walking into the ring, it had that chaos that you would think that Rocky would have felt walking into this ring, right, with these people screaming and these lights going and the media's going nuts. You got that feeling from the camera work. It was pretty cool.
Then the 70s were a little more about reality. I think I talked about this before on one of the podcasts, but it's like that was kind of like when the Hollywood magic was kind of being stripped away a little, and like things were being shown as a little more realistic and stuff. You know what I mean? So I don't know, like it's almost like the stage acting and stuff was kind of gone, and people were starting to want to see a mirror to society and stuff. Not to mention, spoiler alert, Rocky loses.
That's the point I wanted to talk about too. Well, that's one thing that I felt was like extremely uncommon at that time. It had to help with the fact that it had to help with them winning, the Oscar that year, because it's like it wasn't about the fact that he won or lost. It was the
going the distance.
It was going the distance, which that story had never been told.
Yeah, he
before.
won all 15 rounds.
Yeah.
No one's ever gone the distance, Creed.
Is it 15? Did I fuck that up?
It is 15, isn't it?
I thought it was 12.
Or is it 12?
12?
I don't remember.
Well, we'll have to rewatch it.
Asshole boxing fans now and shit.
I thought it was 12.
12 rounds. 12 rounds. It is 12.
You remember thinking that Bugs Bunny cartoon where they're holding up like round 78 and stuff? All right. Yeah, that's mine. Rocky. Love the movie. Very 70s. Very, very 70s.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. All right, so I'll jump in. My 70s pick. Originally, I wanted to pick, and I won't talk about this first one, but originally I wanted to pick Easy Rider. But I did have to double check, and it was actually filmed in '69. And Easy Rider, if you ever get a chance, it's a great movie. It's got Peter Fonda, it's got Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper. And it's like you just see like the corporate guy meets the hippie, meets the free spirit, and they go on a journey. So watch it if you can. But when I think of hippies, I think of 70s. That's why I thought this movie would be perfect, but then it turns out 69, so that doesn't qualify. So my true 70s movie that makes me always think of the 70s is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Which
wow.
My mom loves that movie.
You just set it up You're going Easy Rider, and then okay.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Well, because I do love the movie Easy Rider, but it's not a 70s movie. So, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think that's a great movie. I think Nicholson won or was at least nominated for Best Actor for that movie. But it's just one of those fun, interesting stories of a guy who's in the nut house and his experiences with all of these other people who are just being treated very poorly. And speaking of, like, now that we're talking about decades, in the either 90s or early 2000s, it reminds me of, like, Girl Interrupted, but from, like, the 70s male's perspective, where it's just, like, it's just a very interesting story to experience and, like, follow and enjoy. So that's my 70s pick.
That's a phenomenal movie. Now I'm embarrassed to ask, what year was that, and did that win? It did win, didn't it?
That was 75. I know they won something, but let me just do a quick
picture.
Let me just do a quick.
No, because wasn't 75.
Let us see.
One was Godfather. Was Godfather 75? I think it was.
You know what? They won 5 Oscars.
Oh man, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, Oscar winner, Best Picture.
Best Picture, okay.
Best Actor. Yeah, so Jack Nicholson did win Best Actor in a leading role.
Oh, Godfather, I'm way off. Godfather was 72. Whoops. All right.
Best Actress, Louise Fletcher, leading role. She was the nurse.
Yes.
Nurse
Ratched.
Yeah. She did a phenomenal job. Best Writing Screenplay.
Wow. Cleaned up.
Yeah. And Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Brad Dourif.
Wait, did Nurse Ratched get, was that actress or supporting
actress?
So that might actually be one. So we got actor. Did Nicholson win?
Yep.
So we got actor. Of course he won. I knew that. So we got actor, actress, writing, and
best
picture. Did he get directing too?
Best picture and best supporting role. Best actor supporting role.
Did he get best director or no?
Nominee. Sorry, nominee for best cinematography. And I apologize, I misspoke. Best actor in a supporting role was a nominee.
Okay.
So he did not get that.
I mean, they cleaned up on
and
some
another
major
nominee
awards.
for best film editing.
That's right.
And nominee for best score. So, yeah, they took way more than I anticipated.
Well, it deserves it. It's a great movie.
It's a classic. It's a great film.
Classic book. Classic movie.
It's
yes.
Jack Nicholson at his best.
Yeah.
I think he did that traditional Jack Nicholson character, but like he did a great job of playing it.
Chief.
Yeah. It's just it's such a good movie. And anytime I watch it, it's like I'm like, yeah, this is totally 70s movie.
And that's another
totally
one too
movies.
where it doesn't end well for the protagonist, right? I mean, Rocky, he loses. Cuckoo's Nest, he really loses his mind.
Yeah.
You know, gets lobotomized at the end. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
30-something years later, whatever. 40 now almost.
No wonder Star Wars did so well in 77.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody won. Everything's happy.
And then they saw Empire that went, come on!
Yeah. Took it back from us.
Right. Oh man. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, great pick. That is very 70s movie and a very good movie. Holds up to this day.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, Bill, your turn.
Oh man, you're gonna make me go.
That's so 70s.
I did mention No, I won't pick The Godfather. That's not even. It doesn't take place in the 70s. It can't do it. I don't think it does. No, the first one does it. Made in 72, but doesn't take place in the 60s or 70s. I'm foggy on that.
No.
Either way, what I do have to correct, because it's been bothering me for the last 2 or 3 minutes now, and I'm one of those people that, if I'm listening to the podcast, I'm like yelling at it if I hear this. Rocky won 15 rounds in the original Rocky. 15 rounds is going in the distance. That is correct.
Way to make
right.
JT and me look bad.
No, JT.
It makes me look like a boxing expert.
Yes. No. I was embarrassed because I'm like, is it 12? No, it's not 12. It's
I don't even pick Balrog in Street Fighter.
I'm a huge Rocky fan, and I even knew that, and I was like, yeah, it's 12. It's not 12, so it is 15. We corrected ourselves. Apologies. Little embarrassing moment, but that's all right. My 70s movie. What is so 70s to me? Oof. There's a lot of them, man. I've gone back and forth between two, so I'll give my honorable mention, and it could easily be my first, but my honorable mention is Taxi Driver.
Ooh.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
That's as 70s as it gets.
I know, and it's my honorable mention.
You talking to me?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's Scorsese directs it, obviously De Niro stars, and others, a lot of others are in it. It's a great movie. It's one of my favorites. Still holds up. It really just takes you inside the mind of Travis Bickle throughout the whole film. Does a great job of that. And it's very stylistic of the 70s, I think, and very Scorsese stylistic as well. But I love it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite films. But that's my... I was going back and forth between that and... But a movie where I see it and I immediately go, oh, 70s. Great. Horror, kind of. I would consider it a horror movie in a way. And we've already talked about this film a little bit, and it's a shame that Tony's not here. It's his favorite movie of all time that he watches like at least 3 times a month, according to him.
I thought Jaws was the one.
Jaws. Let's go with.
He digs
I'll go with
70s,
Jaws.
I guess.
I totally jumped over you. I
That's
thought
right.
you were still talking about Taxi Driver.
No. Well, we could. I mean, they're both good. I want to pick them both because I think Taxi Driver is a very 70s movie, but for me, Jaws is one that I see and I always think, wow, this is my, one of my favorite movies of all time. Easily one of my favorite movies made in that time period. Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's got everything you need, I think, in a film. It's still the original blockbuster, no doubt. It's both an adventure movie, a mystery, a horror movie, all in one thing. I think, it's a great summer movie to watch. So that's one thing, too. It makes me think of summer, and it makes me think of the 70s. And it makes me think of why I didn't like to go on Lake Michigan alone as a child, even though there were no sharks there. Well, allegedly. But, yeah.
Giant mutant carps, though.
Yeah. It's what I love about it to this day is that it's 2 movies in one. It splits itself into 2, I feel. You get this kind of like mysterious horror film in the first half of it. And then as soon as the trio goes out on the orca to hunt Jaws, then it becomes almost an adventure film, in a way.
Yeah.
In a weird way, it almost becomes this, these guys are out. It's Moby Dick at that point,
Yeah.
right? They're hunting the great white whale instead it's the great white shark. And, it's, I love it. I mean, every aspect of that movie is just entertaining to this day, so... yeah. The sequels, not so much. I can't say as much for the sequels, but the original Jaws, the OG 1975, is a great film.
It's one of those. I know whether we talked about this before when we were talking about like Halloween movies, but then the fact of the movie Halloween, where it's like it just goes to show you that a really kick-ass 2 or 3 note score can just terrify the crap out of you.
Jaws proves that.
And Jaws proves that with just the da-da.
It's one of those where even if you've never seen Jaws, you know the music.
Yeah, exactly.
You could not have seen the movie and that's from that shark movie. That's from
Exactly.
Jaws, right? Yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how good it is.
Well,
Well, that's the Nintendo Jaws, which is very different from the film.
Did they take liberties on?
It does. For one thing, at one point you drop cannonballs on jellyfish from a plane in the video game, so it makes
Seems realistic.
Makes no sense.
that scene was cut.
Yeah, right. The scene where the scuba diver had infinite harpoon gun bullets.
Spielberg was like,
cut.
the jellyfish don't look real.
Right. Yeah. Oh, good old Bruce. What they named the animatronic shark. So, anyway.
No, that's such a great movie, and like you said, that is true 70s, and I just remember always seeing that movie in the summertime when I was a little kid, and just you just get scared of it, and It's
There are
great.
places that show that, like, on the water, where, like, you take a raft out and they show the movie out on a lake. And it's like you're out on the lake watching the screens on the
Wading
beach.
in the water.
Oh,
in
forget
an
it. At night? At night?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
How many people get killed by sharks a year? It's not that much, right?
Only the ones that are close to the shore.
Yeah, but like actually get killed.
Well, I always hate that. I know, but I always hate the most shark attacks happen, close to the shore. Well, yeah, because that's where the people that's where all the people are. That's an older joke, but it's true.
Somebody gets bit in the leg and then they kick the thing and then it goes away because it's like, oh no, something kicked me. Isn't that usually how it goes?
I still don't like being out there by myself.
I was always scared of jellyfish as a kid. Like when you hear about Portuguese man of war and stuff like that, when you're reading about it in like science class in 4th grade, they're like, well, these are like giant jellyfish, and if you touch it, you die.
It's like so poisonous. Just to touch it.
Yeah, exactly. I just touch it, I get stung, and I die. That sucks.
It's like, I'd rather get bit.
I'm never going to the ocean. Then.
I'd rather get bit. So, yeah. All right. That's all right. That wraps up for the 70s decade. Wow, we wrapped up a whole decade in 3 movies. Not possible. There's definitely more out there, but these are just off the top of our head right here, right now. Let's go to the 80s. Starting the 80s, who wants to do that?
I got it.
JT, 80s.
Let's go back around in the
That's
circle.
so 80s.
That's so 80s, dude. Like, probably... Lost Boys. That's what I'm going for.
Wowzers,
so
yes.
Yeah, 1987.
That is so
good.
80s.
It's a great movie. Like you almost want to forgive Joel Schumacher for having made Batman and Robin, for having made Lost Boys.
Oh man.
But like, no, it's great because think about it. It's got like the Coreys when they were young,
Haim Feldman, yeah.
like when they were probably like junior high age or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's like
It's got that element of like vampire lore to it.
Vampire stuff, just the fashion statements in the movie. You know what I mean? With like the goth stuff. Like it's like what's his face? Kiefer Sutherland. He's got it like blonde spiky hair like Billy Idol and a mullet.
Yes.
And you got Bill from Bill and Ted. What's his face? Why can't I think of his name?
Alex Winters?
Yes,
Winters.
yes,
Thank you.
that
Damn.
dude.
I was on the spot with the whole podcast thing. But, no, yeah. And I once saw a YouTube video supercut. You know those?
Okay.
Of like every time somebody says Michael or Mike in the movie, mostly Michael. And it's like super, it's like 2 minutes long. It's like Michael. You know what I mean? Like it was hilarious. But and then the soundtrack, that constant playing of Echo and the Bunnymen covering The Doors.
Yeah.
People Are Strange.
Yep.
That was great. And did you ever notice like nostalgia in movies or nostalgia in culture is always 2 decades behind,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the 80s they were doing the 60s,
Yeah.
70s they did the 50s, 90s did the 70s,
Yeah.
2000s did the 80s. Now we're on the 90s and the 2010s.
Ugh.
Yeah. I love the 90s.
I know. I just probably doing that.
Nah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Corey Haim's awful fucking outfits.
Yes.
Like at least they in the movie. I guess they were so bad for the 80s that even the people in the movie said your clothes are lame. You know what I mean? Like they told him, "Hey, change your stupid clothes." I don't know.
The one thing I remember about that movie, like that's a phenomenal movie, but for some reason the thing that I always remember was that it's so stupid and cheesy. It's that freaking saxophone dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Sexy sax man.
It's like, dude, like he's got that long, greasy back hair. It's just like, oh my god.
That's kind of like his official.
His
official cult favorite title is just Sexy Sax Man. That's what people call him.
It's so like disturbingly weird 80s. Like it's like '80s is just oozing out of
Joel
him.
Schumacher. I'm not knocking anything. Joel Schumacher is gay though, so he's like he had to have like behind the scenes been like, nope, not enough grease.
God.
Add more.
Lather it on.
He was shining.
Yeah. Oh, he's glistening.
But then
saxophone guy.
I remember too, like just like the setting too, like the creepy creepy small town carnival.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like the wharf.
Yeah.
It's a weird carnival. You got the Ferris wheel.
Yeah,
always going. It's a great scene, and
there's something
actually
very creepy. Small
they do a
town
great
about
job
it.
of and then they do a great job of just setting it up about like how this is just one of those towns where it's like you've got hitchhikers coming and going, and like no one's gonna miss anyone who's here. So they're the perfect bait. Just like take all these runaway kids.
Bait.
Yeah. Pick up. They actually phrase it that way in the movie. It's just a bunch of like runaways.
This is how dumb I am
area.
too. I always forget if it's Santa Carla or Santa Clara. One is fictional from the movie and one is real. Which was it?
That's a good question.
Santa Carla or Santa Clara?
Do you know the answer? Because I'm like, now you've got me wondering which one is it.
Let's keep talking because it's like, this is like the last line in the movie. One thing about Santa Clara.
Oh yeah.
Or slash Carla.
The damn
vampires.
Oh, that's so good. So good.
I remember also when I first saw that as a kid, like I used to look at like the punk rockers in the background, and like I noticed later in life they had GBH jackets and patches and spiky hair and shit. And like I was always like, oh man, those guys look so dangerous, and they look so much older than you and stuff when you're a kid. And then I watched it like when I was 30 something recently, and I'm like, that's what I looked like when I was 19.
Oh, that's fucking great. No, that's such a great pick.
Oh yeah, that's definitely so 80s. I mean, just the characters in it, man. I mean, look at the vampires are like they're an 80s rock band, like that vampire like group.
You know what I noticed also watching it recently is that like there are not that many effect shots in that movie.
No, a lot of it's practical.
Most of it. But like not even like good practical effect.
No, not good.
Just like that Evil
Dead. Some of it's good. Some of it's pretty good.
That Evil Dead POV cam. It's just like just floating around, while the fucking music plays.
But then you have like even the cheese like where he does like he sprays holy water in in his face and it starts melting. Like even that's like.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool. That's
it's cheesy, but it's really cool looking too. When it burns.
But I'm just saying, like as far as them flying and stuff.
Yeah,
it's really only in the end when they fight in the house that like there's like maybe
you see that
3 shots of them grappling in the air.
Because other than that, they just do a POV of someone flying, right? Yeah, and you see the victim like, "What's that?"
I guess until I watched it later in life, I just didn't know how much they skimped.
Right?
Yeah,
still love that scene where they're all hanging on the edge of the tracks, though, like under the tracks.
Oh yeah,
that's still like. I've always wanted to do that, but. Then again, I'll never do that. So
it's a creepy movie when you're young,
It is. Yeah. It is. But yeah, fun movie.
Not like outright scary, but
still watchable still now and still very and again, like you see that you're like
Nanook, the dog. Like I always remember Nanook. Corey Haim screaming out Nanook.
Nice.
Great
Sergio.
Pick. Great pick. All right, so my quintessential 80s movie has to go to The Goonies.
Oh!
Like
I gotta pick a backup now. But go ahead.
Do you really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I almost picked that one.
I'm glad you picked it. No.
Should I say my backup?
No, because you might steal my backup. Please pick The Goonies.
Yeah, that's just.
I love that movie.
That's just one of those movies. When I was a little kid, like I would watch that over and over, and like really want to be in an adventure. Like I wanted to be Data. Yes, I wanted to be a little Asian kid. Maybe that's why I like cameras, but. I loved that character. The fact that he would invent so many things.
I hate to break it to you, Sergio, but you grew up to be Data.
I grew up. Actually, that's a compliment.
I know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Got a great idea. You got slick shoes. Now get busy making us $50 bills, and we'll call it $50 bill. $50 bills. Ah, love it.
No, it's not. That movie, such a fun. Kids adventure movie.
Yes.
Spielberg, it's just one of those things where it's like he's on top of his game, directing and writing such a fun film.
Did he direct it? I don't think he directed it.
I think he just produced it.
He produced it.
Really?
Yeah.
Did he write it?
That I don't know.
Now I gotta look it up.
Why do I have a feeling Chris Columbus had something to do with that?
You're probably right. You're probably right.
But no, Spielberg definitely produced it, for sure, no doubt. I don't think he directed it.
Okay, but it's just one of those. Oh, was it Zemeckis? Yeah, there goes my knowledge about this movie. But nonetheless, it's just one of those fun kid adventure movies. Like when I saw it, it's like I wanted to be on an adventure like that. Everybody knows the phrase "one-eyed Willie," probably because of that movie. There's so many great actors in it. You got Sean Astin, a young Sean Astin, a young Josh Brolin.
Holy shit, this is hysterical. You know who directed it?
Who?
Richard Donner.
That's right. I did know that. Oh, I knew that.
Yes. You mean Tim Burton?
Right.
I think you mean Tim Burton right now.
So poor Richard Donner, if he's listening, hates our podcast. That is twice that we've mistaken another movie for
If it
him.
wasn't Superman, I don't know.
That's awesome.
Poor guy
All right,
gets
so yes,
no
Richard
credit.
Donner directed.
Chris Columbus did write it. I was right.
Chris Columbus wrote it. Richard Donner directed.
And
Steven Spielberg
but I think
produced it.
Spielberg's name
Of
is
course,
just
it's a
all
great
over
movie.
it.
Yes,
No, it is.
It
It
is.
totally is. Yeah.
Yeah, but
It
yeah,
might even be a Steven Spielberg presents. I think. Who knows? But anyway, yes, Richard Donner directed it. That's awesome.
oh, poor Richard Donner.
Turns out he's a great director. He just doesn't get the credit. For it.
I know, right? And even like the soundtrack for it, as cheesy as it is, you got Cyndi Lauper with like all of her, like she's got like 2 or 3 songs that are in it. It's just like it's such a great, like to me, that movie was the 80s because I could remember just watching that over and over and over.
100%.
Yeah.
Still to this day, nothing but nostalgia watching that movie.
Yeah.
You know, I know everything that's going to happen in it. I'm still watching
Yeah.
it. I still get excited for the booby traps. Mm-hmm. You know, when the Fratellis are after him, I'm still like, run.
Yep.
They got to run. You know, it's so good.
Yeah.
You still laugh at the same parts.
It's like another one of those movies that understood childhood, you know,
Yes.
like it actually got kids right, you know, like a lot of 80s movies did, where they actually swear at each other and like talk over each other and scream and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a little grating when you're older though, because a lot of that movie is just like, oh my god, look at this.
And still, like one of my favorite lines in it is a line that I don't even know if the kids knew what they were saying when they said the line, but because it totally skips it over in the movie, but it's hilarious to me. It's right in the beginning where, you know, Chunk knocks over the statue. I think it's like a mini statue of David or something.
Yeah.
Statue, and the penis falls off. And Mikey, oh man, that's my mom's favorite part. And they just keep going on.
Yep.
They just keep going. They don't even call it out, but it's like, that's hilarious.
Yes.
My mom's favorite part of the statue. How do you know that? I love it. Such a funny movie. And just entertaining and great. Even though Donna directed it, Spielbergian adventure, I'll say.
Yep.
Because that's what that guy does best, man. He tells a good adventure story.
Yes,
and
he does.
That is 80s at its best.
There was a
right there.
statue penis gag in The Naked Gun also. So I guess that's real 80s.
There you go. There you go. Anything with a penis gag is really... I don't know.
But specifically from a statue.
That's awesome. Yeah, everything, and even like you said, even the soundtrack is...
Yeah.
When you have Cyndi Lauper involved,
Good enough
it is
for
you. It's good enough. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right.
That was in the Nintendo game too. Goonies 2.
Oh yeah, they kept
Really?
playing.
Yeah, in like the first one.
I guess
No, that game was awful. The game was awful.
Great 8-bit soundtrack, I guess.
The map made no sense in that game. We'll get into that. We can get into that another. It doesn't matter. It's horrible.
That's got to be like a favorite like video game movie podcast.
No, that would be in the worst video games.
Jesus Christ.
A lot of my favorite
Imagine
movies made
E.T.
terrible video games. Yeah.
Especially in the 80s and 90s.
Oh God.
Yeah. All right, Phil.
Oh man.
Favorite 80s.
Gotta go with another one.
It's so 80s.
Another one that's not Gooners. I'm gonna go with Back to the Future.
That was going to be my runner-up.
I know.
Right.
That's why I didn't have you say it.
I can't
the
believe
funny-
that was your runner-up.
And the funny
You
thing
love
is,
Back to the Future.
well, that was going to be my number 1, but I had a feeling someone else would pick it.
Oh, all right.
So
That's
you and
funny
I were on
because
the same page.
I had Goonies one and Back to the Future too. So
I
there you
should have
go.
went with my gut.
It's all right. It's all right. We
Yeah.
know they're both good movies. But yeah, specifically the first Back to the Future. Even though the trilogy as a whole, I don't hate any of those movies. But the first one is totally an 80s movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he goes back in time to 1955. The movie's very 1985.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
With the references even that he makes in the 50s
I'll have
about
a tab
the 80s.
of a Pepsi free.
Yes.
If you want a Pepsi, kid, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah. Such a
The
good
life
name.
preserver. Dork thinks he's gonna drown.
Oh yeah, it's so good. I love the movie. Still one of my favorite, I guess, franchises, trilogies of all time.
Mine too, for sure.
No doubt. Still, even though I've seen some good ones, still one of the best time travel movies of all time. I mean, it has fun with that concept.
Yep.
And there's a lot of Easter eggs that I certainly didn't notice the first few times I watched the movie. Now I see different things where, little things like Twin Pines Mall.
Yeah, Lone
Oh,
Pine.
It's
Mall.
now
Lone
Lone
Pine Mall.
Pine Mall. When they go-
Yeah.
like little stuff like that is awesome.
Yeah.
When you realize you're like, oh, like they had the wherewithal and the foresight to come up with
space
this.
bastard!
Right.
You killed my hind!
Yeah. I mean, it's all good. I mean, we could talk about that movie forever, I think. But I think, everything about Back to the Future is still, the original one is one of my favorite movies for sure. Always entertaining. If I'm flipping through the channels and it's on, I'm stopping the flipping. Even though I own it, I'm going to watch a little bit of it for sure.
All right, here's a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
Jennifer 1 or 2?
One.
1.
Well, I think one is hotter.
Yeah.
But I do really like
I do like-
Elizabeth Shue.
I do like-
Although,
Elizabeth Shue,
no,
too.
I like
Elizabeth
her as an
Shue-
actress. I don't like her as Jennifer.
Right.
Oh.
Exactly.
Now, here's, another 80s movie though. Elizabeth Shue, The Karate Kid.
Adventures in Babysitting. That's another one.
I almost picked that
entire
one.
movie.
Why would you one up me? Oh my god, that's
entire-
80s as hell.
That entire
Both
movie,
those are.
she's the lead in
All right,
that
Adventures
movie.
in Babysitting and The Karate Kid.
I don't have a winner.
Oh, maybe I changed my answer. I might go with Jennifer 2.
Can't do it.
I am gonna. No, I changed it. I love Elizabeth Shue. Jennifer 2.
I'm still going with Jennifer 1.
Good for you. Jennifer 2 for me. All right.
I'll stick with Jennifer 1.
Elizabeth
because-
Shue, if you're listening, I love you. My wife, if you're listening, it's a joke. I'm just kidding.
They wrote themselves into a corner in the second one. They were like, how do we get her out of this movie?
Yeah.
The first one was meant to be like, it wasn't meant to have a sequel. Like, at the end, it was just like a cheeky, like, here we go again ending.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But, like, whatever. I love all of them. I really do.
Man, Elizabeth
Oh,
Shue in
oh,
the
man.
80s. God bless it. All right. Anyway,
Hold on, but I love,
let's keep talking Back to the Future.
yeah, so Power of Love. Like,
Yeah.
there was one thing about the 80s that just did a good job of coordinating with musicians and,
Yeah.
like, doing great soundtracks.
Huey Lewis in the
Because
News
Huey
is all
Lewis
over that, man.
And the
Yeah.
fact that Huey Lewis is in the movie as the principal who rejects, Marty from the Battle of the Bands because he's just too damn loud. I was like, dude, that's hilarious. The rock star whose theme song is
Yep.
in the movie is the one rejecting the kid who's playing Power of Love, his song, and saying, sorry, you're just too damn loud.
I've seen at least 3
That's
punk bands
hilarious.
called the Pinheads, by the way.
Yeah.
Which, like, could be any kind of romance or any kind of reference, but I always just think it's Back to the Future. Because that's what they were called in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're the Pinheads.
Oh, man, such a good movie. Great pick. Great pick.
Why, thank you very much. You as well. All right.
Moving on. That's
It's the 90s. That's so 90s. JT, you're up.
That's all 90s.
Yeah. 90s.
Oh shit! I should have picked that. Should have picked Beavis and Butthead.
Oh.
But what? I'm not. It's still number 2 for me. I'd go with The Crow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that movie. Now that you
So
said
do
it, I
I.
kind of wish that
I
I
wasn't
picked it.
thinking that though, and that's a great pick. Very 90s.
I love the movie. It really reminds me of being 14 and 15 or so in the 90s, like that early high school, late junior high kind of phase where I'm wearing Smashing Pumpkins t-shirts and I have mushroom hair and baggy jeans and shit, you know? Like, just reminds me of that. It's just those, I don't know, like 90s alternate goth days, you know?
Yeah.
Which is funny because the comic book was actually like an 80s goth thing. Well, that was made in the 80s, was the comic book, and it was like a little more post-punk, a little more like, I don't know, like just the vibe of it was very like Cure and Smiths and like shit like that, you know? But like the 90s one, it's like they kind of like went for the Nine Inch Nails kind of crowd, you know?
Right.
So
yeah, because like actually the soundtrack had Nine Inch Nails, it had Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah. I don't know if I bought these.
There was a couple great. That
Actually,
soundtrack,
I said
that
The Cure.
soundtrack was a great soundtrack.
Yeah, it's
there.
funny I said The Cure. That movie got me into The Cure with
Really?
Burn. You know?
Oh yeah,
Burn's an awesome song.
yeah.
He's first putting on the makeup and shit. And then Nine Inch Nails covered Joy Division, I believe. And but that movie's great because it's just one of those, you know what I mean? Like just those rock T-shirt wearing kids from your junior high and high school. That's like the movie we'd all quote. That's the movie we'd all just put on, you know, while eating Doritos or whatever, like on sleepovers and shit. You know, then there was like I don't know, it's just fun.
So
it's endlessly quotable.
Oh, it's definitely a great movie, and I actually remember, like a year later, I forgot what year that came out, but I remember being a freshman at Moraine Valley, and I had to write a paper about, it was for like an English class, and I remember writing a paper about that because it was about the mythology of how Bruce Lee. My paper was about Bruce Lee and how he's got a curse.
Yeah.
And they say that Bruce Lee died young because of this curse, and that curse carried on to Brandon Lee. And my entire, because like it was a speech class, because I remember I was talking about the movie Crow and how Brandon Lee passed away in that movie because he got shot by it was a what do you call the fake bullets? The
blanks.
The blanks.
Yeah.
But the cap inside the blanks shot out.
Allegedly,
and ended up, that's what was his cause of death was on set during filming that movie.
He didn't die right away. He went to the hospital and everything. It sucks.
And I just remember, like, because I thought that was a great movie. I thought the whole goth feel was amazing. And I also remember, like, that's probably like the first time that when a comic book became a movie, and I'm like, they did a great freaking job. Like, this is awesome. I almost want to say, like, that's when Hollywood might have said, like, okay, there might be a market here. Let's start figuring this out and do a good job, because that movie, I felt, kind of like helped a lot of these indie comics start to make their way into
indie comics for sure.
Yeah,
for sure that,
because there was no way that The Crow, I'd never heard of it as a comic book. But then this movie came out, and I just remember everyone be like, "Oh, it was a comic book," and I'm like, "Oh wow, like that's a great source to find movie content."
Tim Burton didn't have anything to do with The Crow, but his style and his like influence definitely blazed the trail for it. Like if it wasn't for Batman and Batman Returns and Edward Scissorhands, there would be no Crow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like people just took like what he did with that, with like the weird set design and like the macabre like overtones, and just kind of like just went to like 11, you know, with that movie.
No, great.
To this day, when I go out drinking with a friend of mine, we always go, we smokes and road beers, which I don't do. I don't do road beers. It's just a quote. I'm on record here. I'm on record here. I just got to say that I don't really do that.
We only drink during podcasting. Okay, only during podcasting. Excellent pick.
And like you said earlier, so quotable. Like even like I always like in my mind, I'm always thinking of the one scene where he's just like the leader. He's like, "We killed you, man. You can't be you. We killed you. There ain't no coming back.
There's no coming back.
There ain't no coming back."
And,
just the way he's delivering it.
Killed you.
And that actor has been in so many things. He was like in The Warriors.
Yeah,
like
who plays the main villain in that shit? Wasn't he in like? He's been in a bunch of shit, but like the guy with the long hair, you know? With
I
voice
told
like
you.
This, you know?
Yeah, he's got that gritty voice. I don't know,
Let me
but
do
he's
an
been in
impression.
other things.
Call, baby, fuck, I'm dead.
Oh man,
And
great
the
pick.
second one was horrible. City of Angels?
No. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one Crow movie. Like anything else, I think there's 3 of them. To be honest, I want to say there was a second and a third that were made.
There was a later one with Kirsten Dunst that I actually saw.
Yeah,
and it was like okay in a B movie kind of way, but still just garbage.
All right, man, great pick. Seriously. All right, my '90s pick.
Oh,
it's got to be Fight Club.
And
that I had to look up because I just remember. Good. I remember watching that while I was in college, and then I looked that up, and I'm like, wow, that movie came out in '99, so that one made the cusp of a '90s movie. But
it is very late '90s.
Yeah,
though, you know.
But to me, when I saw that movie, it blew my mind because it was one of those where it's just like you don't expect the twist. You're like when you find out that Tyler Durden is really Edward Norton the whole time, and it's just like, holy crap.
I love that you had to say Edward Norton because that character never has a name.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the best part.
Because
the narrator is always the narrator.
The narrator's the narrator, and the character is Tyler Durden.
And the movie does a great job, which the book does, of course, first, but the movie did a great job of not letting you notice that he didn't have a name.
Yeah.
It was never an issue.
Yeah.
It never came up.
Yeah.
Right? His name was Cornelius, for all we knew.
Well, some people would say it might have been Jack, because there's that scene.
He says, I am Jack's.
Yeah.
Sure.
I am Jack's.
Jack's this. I am Jack's irritable bowel.
Irritable bowel.
I am Jack's smirking revenge. Is my favorite. Yeah. Sure,
I think it's been a long time since I saw the movie, but didn't he like read something that had the name Jack in it toward the beginning? And then he kept like rephrasing that.
Right. I am Jack's this, I am Jack's that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people inferred that maybe it meant his name was Jack. But I think that they never mention his name on purpose. Like he is Tyler number one, and you're supposed to feel like you are him. Yeah. He is everybody.
Did anybody but me, when they first saw it, actually catch the glimpses of Brad Pitt when he popped in there?
Yes, but I didn't put it together. I didn't know what they meant.
I didn't either. But
I always thought it was like, it's funny because he's talking about how he used to cut things in, and they're doing that during the movie.
Exactly.
Ha ha ha. Yeah. But I didn't put together like, we're watching. No.
You're watching little psychological episodes.
Like
I looked at it as like, those are his psychological episodes. Like, he's thinking he's seeing somebody.
Yeah. No, that twist is one of the, greatest twists of all time for sure. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's up there.
And I just, as soon as I saw that movie, because I had never read anything by Chuck Palahniuk until that movie came out, and then I found out, this is based on a book. I'm gonna run out and grab the book, and the book is phenomenal. Like the book, the way the movie ends is not how the book ends. That's like the chapter right before the last chapter of the book.
Oh yeah, how does the book end?
It's great, but I could see how they didn't want to do this. So the buildings crash, and then they cut to Tyler Durden in a psychiatric ward. And he's lying in a bed, and he's calling for all his he's calling for all of his angels, and he wants to talk to God, and the angels are the nurses, and he finally gets a chance to talk to God, and they do this whole like little conversation that he has with who he's referring to God, but is definitely a doctor. So he's definitely crazy, and he's in a psychiatric ward because of all the stuff that he just done. And it's just like it takes it that next step further. That is just like, whoa, this is really messed up.
So he did legit complete his task?
Yeah, in the book.
And he did legit shoot himself and survive?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because
that was the ending of Fight Club, the movie, I had always, because I never read the book, had always like perplexed me. Like, is this supposed to be a dream sequence and he actually killed himself? Or did he actually complete his task? And either way, I thought it was a ballsy ending to actually show him destroy the credit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I thought that was a little like Hollywood does not often go for the the anarchist wins. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So
Project Mayhem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely. And if you've ever read anything by Chuck Palahniuk, he's a great writer up to the book Ghost. After that, it just gets too intense. Like he starts going down this rabbit hole that was just a little bit too graphic for me. But he's got this one nonfiction book that's like true stories It's called Stranger Than Fiction. It's not the Will Ferrell movie.
Not the Bad Religion album.
Yeah, not the Bad Religion album. But one thing I loved about when I read that book is he's talking about his experience when he was on set of Fight Club, and I want to believe that this is true. He talks about how they're filming the scene where they're outside the house shooting golf balls, because I guess that's like one of the scenes.
Sure.
And Brad Pitt walks up to Chuck Palahniuk and he says, "Thank you for writing the best role I have ever played." And I'm just like, I really hope that happened, because like I do think that Brad Pitt's performance in that movie
he's great.
was phenomenal.
He poured everything.
Between him and Ed Norton, I mean, they kill it. They kill it.
Like
oh my god,
that was around the time too that like Brad Pitt was going from like B+ list to A+ list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A- to A+.
Yeah.
Because it's like people thought he was a pretty face, you know, like
right
in like the early '90s and stuff, but he was like slowly proving himself left and right that he could.
Right. Yeah, and
be a heavy hitter.
And his performance in that is just like the juxtaposition between the two characters. They played it so well. You have this rugged, destructive, I don't care about the system character of Brad Pitt with this other character of Ed Norton who's just like, I should follow rules and I should be obedient and do the right thing. And they feed off each other so damn well that when it leads up to the actual outcome, it's just like, whoa, this is like an amazing story.
Yeah. Helena Bonham Carter.
Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't remember her name.
Oh my gosh, she's great in that movie too. I mean,
she's not still married to Tim Burton, right? I don't think they are anymore.
Are they? I don't know if they ever were married, but they were together.
Oh, were they? Oh.
They might still be. I'm not sure. Another Tim Burton fact that I don't know, apparently. But even though I love Tim Burton, but that's okay. But no, that movie. I mean, there's just those three, and there's a lot of great performances in it. But just those three right there.
Oh, and then the soundtrack alone, like Dust Brothers, that. Like I want to say, all it is just like a Dust Brothers soundtrack, because they pretty much scored the entire movie to be this like kick-ass '90s Daft Punk style. Like clubbish,
even like
soundtrack.
The clothes and the haircuts and the way the movie was lit, you know, like it felt like a late '90s music video kind of.
For sure. And I always go to like my the funniest moment in the movie, but for me, it's always like an oddball moment that I find the most hilarious. But in this particular one, what I always remember when I think of Fight Club is, so if you remember. They get to the point where Project Mayhem becomes this sort of cult, right?
Right.
And everybody in Project Mayhem, they come up with the concept of those in Project Mayhem don't have names, right? So the best is when Meatloaf's character dies.
Bitch tits.
Right. Yeah.
Bob has bitch tits.
Bob had bitch tits, right? Robert Paulson, right? So he goes, no, he had a name. He's like, this is Robert Paulson. He was made. He had a name. And then the one guy, like the jacked up guy, like the jack guy in the group, he goes, I think I understand. In death, those in Project Mayhem do have names. His name is Robert Paulson. And then they all go, his name is Robert Paulson. And then Norton's like, no, this is not what I want. Like, and he's just in saying that, no, you got to care about this guy. He's creating more of a cult atmosphere. Yeah. It's so funny. When that scene happened, I love it. In death, those do
have names.
I think it's one of the funniest parts. I love it. Anyway,
such a great
another
movie.
Great film, very 90s for sure. It makes me think of the 90s. Is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
Shoot, how do I wrap this up? I have opposite ends of the spectrum here, guys. I have two that I'm debating between. One is one of my favorite movies of all time. One I think is just very, very 90s. So, what to go with? I'm going to go with one that I think feels 70s, but it was made in the 90s, and to me it's a very 90s movie, even though it has a 70s feel to it, is Reservoir Dogs.
I knew you were going there.
You did?
Yeah.
You know me. You know me a little bit. It is one of my favorite films. It's in my top 10, if not it's quite possibly top 5 of all time. I love that movie. It's my first experience with Tarantino movies, I think. I tend to like Tarantino films. I tend to like heist/gangster movies. So this has all those things going for it. I love movies that are told out of order. I don't know what it is. I've always wanted to write one that's out of order. I have a couple different ideas and concepts that maybe will come to light. But anyway, I've always loved a good story that's told out of order. To me, is very interesting and very exciting. And Reservoir Dogs does that perfectly, I think. Yeah. Very, very well. It's got a lot of style. And I will say a lot of that style is heavily 70s, sure. But to me, it's a very 90s movie. It also has that vibe to it, where the moment the movie starts, you know that something went wrong. You know, within the first 5 minutes, you know, there was a heist, it went bad, here's how it went bad, you know? And then you get the rest of the story from there. But, yeah, it was one of the first rated R movies I can remember watching as a young Bill, going, I really like this. This is awesome. So it was kind of my introduction to that grittier side of films.
Yep.
Because before that, it's all like, oh, E.T. And you know, not that those are bad films, but
even other like R-rated movies
nothing really
would have
gritty
been like,
about them.
Yeah.
That's the first R-rated one I can remember watching, going, I love this movie. Even as a kid, not getting everything that's going on, I still something drew me to that style of film. And, you know, to the point where whenever I hear, you know, Stuck in the Middle with You, I think of Michael Madsen chopping some dude's ear off, okay, you know? And that's one of the best ones I've ever seen.
The juxtaposition between the music and what's actually happening.
I was
exactly.
just going to say verbatim. I was going to use that same dumb word.
Exactly.
Oh, I know. I love the word juxtaposition for some reason. But
and that's something that Tarantino plays with a lot of his films. Where what you hear is not always what you're seeing, and it's so good. And the fact that he walks out, I never will forget this. It's the first time I remember thinking, like, the first time I consciously started watching how shots were made, right? Where the music's playing, he gets done cutting off the ear, and now he's going to kill him. So he's got to go out and get the gas tank from the trunk, right? He walks out the door. He opens the door.
And everything, and the music.
And the door closes and the music stops.
Yeah. And it's just
he goes and gets the gas, camera's still following him, walks back in. As soon as he opens the door, music pops back in, right where it would be in the time of the song. When I realized that, I was like, oh.
Yeah, right.
You know, it was one of those like
the editing was so
good.
Fucking great.
And just that scene alone is gruesome as it is. It's an amazing scene film-wise, right, to watch. And everything else about it. There's great performances in it. It's a great story. It's a great heist story. It's one of the top ones of all time. But yeah, to me, even though it has that vibe to it, more of a 70s vibe, I'll give it that. It's a very 90s movie to me. It's the first one I can remember going, man, I like this gritty. This is awesome. And that's why I love it. Yeah. For sure.
Well, so right off the bat, first, one that was my runner-up,
and highly quotable movie.
I love that movie, and a couple things I want to comment on, things that you've already said. Like, one, the fact that it's R-rated. I feel like that's one of those movies where, you know how like over time they have to make adjustments on what they're going to make an R rating, give an R rating. Like, for instance,
it's pretty tame by today's standards, isn't it?
But even when you think about when you think about the movie Taxi Driver, that they had to fight for an R rating for that movie. And the thing that went overboard was that final ending scene, which was like blood everywhere because of the shootout. And Scorsese actually had
to trim that down?
They didn't trim it down. They actually saturated it to reduce the color of red, so that it didn't look so bloody.
Wow. Where he's got the finger to his head at the end?
And he already shot everybody up because there was so much blood in that scene. In order for them to get it passed by the Motion Picture Association, they actually saturated they reduced the color of red from the footage in order to get it passed to an R rating.
They reduced it.
Yeah.
Because it's still very red at that end point.
Yeah. Well,
they reduced it from that?
Yeah, they had to like get as much red out of there as possible
I
in
didn't
order
know
to make
that.
it. Yeah. So that's one of those great stories about like how Taxi Driver fought to get an R rating. Then you think about movies like Reservoir Dogs, where it's like there's blood and guts. Like that whole movie is just like, I mean, you got what's his name lying on the ground with like Tim Roth with like blood just coming all off
from the opening of the movie.
Yeah,
they're walking in, he's already bleeding.
Yeah, it's like blood everywhere, and
I'm fucking dying.
But when you think
You're
about
gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah,
Say the fucking words.
And then you think about 80s movies where it's like Die Hard had an R rating, but like that's like nowhere near as extreme as like Reservoir Dogs. You know, so it's every
Stop saying good movies that we should have mentioned for 80s. Nobody said Die Hard.
No, it's because I almost
we already said it for Christmas movie. I know.
So that's the one point I wanted to talk about, something that you mentioned. But the other thing I want to mention is that great Michael Madsen scene, the cutting in the air. And this is why I truly love Quentin Tarantino as a director. He actually, during that scene, I remember reading this before, and it's one of those things where it's going to say, like, I hope to God it's true. But I want to say that he filmed that scene twice. He filmed it once where they actually show him cutting off the air.
And then he filmed it where they
panned away. And then he filmed it again where they panned it away.
See, here's what...
To leave the audience, like, to let the audience imagine what's going on.
Sometimes not seeing it is worse.
Right. And it's like he decided in post, not seeing it is so much more gruesome than letting you see it get cut off.
I agree, but it's the way you don't see it.
Yeah.
Because it's not
screaming.
Yes, but it's not a cutaway.
No.
It's a pan away.
It's a pan away.
There's a very specific difference there because it's in real time and the camera moves as if the director's saying, you don't want to see this.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's
gruesome.
Even creepier than seeing it like, now we're going to move the camera over here for a second.
And it's so subtle touches.
The pan away is creepier than the cutaway.
Yeah.
And it works so well.
Subtle touches like that. And it's like Quentin Tarantino is like just, he like was so good at just picking specific ways of camera angles.
Yes.
Like, how many times did you see that upward trunk shot before he did that in Reservoir Dogs and afterwards? Like, once he did that in Reservoir Dogs, you started seeing that a lot. But before that, it was just like kick-ass way to reveal like, here's the shit we got in our trunk.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's just
the Tarantino shot, the inside the trunk shot.
Yeah, inside the trunk shot.
Right. Him and Scorsese do that. But they're the two most inside the trunk directors.
So, but it's
and the second best standoff scene in a movie. Because the first best in my mind is still Good, Bad, and the Ugly. But the standoff scene in Reservoir Dogs is amazing.
Yeah. You know, Bill, when you said like 90s, but it feels 70s, that's still kind of a 90s thing if you think about it, because like
you said, where it skips the 2 decades or whatever.
Right, yeah, with that, but except like the 90s is when movies started becoming self-referential. You know what I mean? On a big scale.
Okay.
Because it's like...
So Scream, in a sense?
Scream, yeah. Okay. As I remember Roger Ebert brought this up in interviews, like in reviews around that time. You know, he was like, characters in movies have now seen movies. You know what I mean? Where it's like in the 80s, 70s, 60s, beyond. You know what I mean? It's
a
like,
great quote.
They might have said it once or twice or whatever, but it's like 90s is when it kind of blew open. It's like entire movies were made about people talking about movies like Clerks, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like
that could be in the argument for 90s movie.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But anyway.
And a lot of, most of Tarantino stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's like characters sitting around talking about pop culture for at least a scene or two, you know? But it's just like, that's when a lot of that kind of stuff started happening. It's like people would talk about pop culture in the movie while it was pop culture, you know?
That's awesome.
So.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
people who the characters in movies have seen movies. Yeah. That's awesome. Yes, very true.
So
let's end it on that. That's pretty damn good. Yeah. I like that quote.
2 quick shout outs though.
Do it.
Idle Hands for the 90s.
All right.
That's late 90s as shit. There's
all right.
Devon Sawa, Seth Green,
Do you even want to hear my other 90s one?
The Offspring,
You
Jessica
don't.
Alba.
You don't. Here's what I was debating on because
and Swingers. That was the second one.
that's a great 90s
Oh,
one.
yes.
The one that to me is very 90s, and I don't know if it's a great movie, but it's highly entertaining, and I will watch it every time it's on, and that's Armageddon.
Yeah.
I know it's terrible. I know it's terrible, but I don't care. It's so 90s. It's so 90s.
Dude, that was
And Bruce Willis cannot die,
That came out when I was in high school.
but he saved the world.
I
did
was
save the
not.
world.
I was not an editor yet. I hadn't taken editing classes, anything like that. And that was when I discovered what bad editing was.
Oh, shut up. All right.
Swear to God.
No, I hear you. I hear you. But you know what? I cry every time. I don't care. I cry every time. Towards the end of that film.
yeah.
Oh, man.
Fucking Michael Bay, like, oh, somebody's grabbing a pencil in this scene.
Yeah.
Let's get a crane shot.
Not even when, and I can't think of the actor's name, but it's not Bruce Willis, but when the other is like right-hand man, when he goes to see his kid and he gives him the spaceship,
Yeah.
he's like, doing something big. You know?
Yeah.
Every time,
Yeah.
dude.
And then at the end, you see the little kid
Yep.
and the mom.
Runs up to him.
All of a sudden, the mom wants to get involved here.
Yeah, right?
It's easy to rip on Michael Bay. He's like the Nickelback of movies.
I know,
but,
Yeah.
but
The
The Rock.
Nickelback
But The
of
Rock was
movies.
awesome.
I was gonna say The Rock. That is.
That's
yeah,
also 90s.
That is 90s shit.
That is a great. That is the
Godspeed.
Michael Bay movie in regards to like what my personal.
Beatles maniac.
You want me to stick this in my heart?
You know how this shit works? You know how this shit works?
You're the best. Losers go home whining about doing the best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. Carla was the prom queen.
And on that note,
On that note, that's where we got to end it. Look, clearly, there's a lot of 70s, 80s, and 90s movies that fit this conversation that we didn't get to. These were just off the top of our head. 5 minutes before we recorded this podcast. What are we going to pick? But you guys know. Hopefully you've enjoyed our conversation. You know, if you got some movies that we skipped over or missed, you know where you can find us at, and we'll get to that during the outro probably. So for now, we'll just say thank you for listening. This has been 2 Drink Minimum from Sergio, Bill, and JT. Cheers, everybody.
cheers.
And that'll do it for our program today. Thanks for listening to WKR something or other. And you just heard 3 in a row, and now we're going to do 4 in a row with Everlong by the Foo Fighters.
Whatever, I'm done.
I'm Casey Kasem. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of 2 Drink Minimum. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you have any movies that you think are that's so 70s, 80s, or 90s, write in and let us know. You can email us, as always, at podcast@kickarock.com. Once again, that's podcast@kickarock.com. Remember to like our page on Facebook and subscribe to our iTunes podcast. Thank you again. This has been 2 Drink Minimum. We've been drinking, thinking, and talking shop. Cheers, everybody.